Hi, I'm Tom Eschen, the host of this Power and Politics podcast, a conversation about the issues that are impacting you the most with the people and the advocates that are making those decisions, that are calling for change, holding them accountable along the way at the same time. Today we sit down with Albany County Executive Dan McCoy, talking about a whole bunch of different issues on the table right now, including that $200 million proposed state investment into the City of Albany, and what he has to say about that and what he thinks maybe that can go towards. At the same time, we ask him about his potential run for Mayor of Albany. He gives us a yes or no on that answer, along with the future of the College of St. Rose campus and what he has in mind there. We talk about his look at the political landscape right now in the city and the county of Albany and how he plans to do that moving forward. So make sure, of course, to tune in, as always, on Power and Politics on our podcast page. You can always watch on YouTube at CBS 6 Albany. County Executive, thanks so much for coming on with us.
Thank you for having me tonight. I appreciate it.
Let's begin with what we just were hearing about here on our newscast. You're someone that has lots of first responder experience, and you have military experience. Seeing and knowing, I guess, a bit of what happened last night, what is your reaction?
You know, I was devastated last night when I saw this on the news, and this is what we trained for. I was a crash rescue firefighter at the airport, and you train for this, but you hope this scenario never happens. And, you know, my heart goes out to all the loved ones. It's devastating for the families, for the airline industry, and for people's, you know, mental mind at this point in time, because everyone gets scared enough of flying, and this just adds to it. And we always say it's safer to fly than it is to drive. People don't want to hear that, but you know, in this case scenario, a lot of things went wrong, and they're going to have to figure out what happened. And unfortunately, you know, everything that they trained for to save somebody, that didn't happen last night.
Just real quick, as a first responder, like, how do you train for something like that? You're seeing tragedy in front of your very eyes.
It's hard. Like we always say this, you deal with what's in front of you. You try not to process it. You lean on your training, because we do so much training in that area. So you kind of become like a robot. You go do it, and it's afterwards when you debrief, and you know, you got to talk about it and what you saw, what you did. But at that point in time, you just try not to think. You try to operate to save as many lives as you can, stop the spread of the fire, and get people obviously out of that water.
Yeah, I think that's why we're seeing a lot of mental health initiatives at all levels for first responders right now. Thanks for answering those questions. Obviously, big news of the day of last night. Let's get into something a little bit more closer to home. Earlier tonight at 5 o'clock, you heard from Albany County Sheriff Apple about immigration and what's going on at the federal administration level. And we talked a bit about sanctuary city and sanctuary policies. And he said, quote, "The sanctuary status means nothing, really." Did you agree with that?
You know, he's pretty much right. I mean, it's more like a ceremonial thing, you know, mayors are doing across this country back when Donald Trump was president before, you know, and now what really legal grounds they stand on, I'll leave that to the legal scholars. You know, the city was a sanctuary city. Albany County is not. But we rolled up our sleeves. We did our job with the immigration. We had 1,500 immigrants here at one point in time. We worked with the city of New York. It wasn't always easy. It was like a roller coaster, but we got it done. And the ones that settled here, and the ones that did not find jobs or do what they need to do went back to the city. I know people are worried about bad actors being here in the community. There's none that we're aware of, and I'm not saying they're not here, so I'm not going to tell you on this show that there's no one here illegally. But ICE and all that, they're concentrating in bigger cities right now. They know who they're targeting. They have their list together. And, you know, I've said this before, if they come here, they're going to reach out to the local authorities to work with them to say, hey, this is who we identified, and they're going to get them off the street.
Is there a line there? I think a lot of the advocates I've spoken with are frustrated at officials saying, well, yeah, we'll work with ICE, but where is that line crossed in terms of protecting these individuals who came here thinking they would be safe from something like that happening?
If they're here legally and they went through the process and they filled out all the paperwork, they should be fine. It's the ones that lied. Like when I took a trip to the border with NACO and NISAC, and I was down there with other county executives across the state of New York and across this country, one of the things we learned, a lot of them lie. They can't tell, you know, we don't have relations with certain countries, so they can't verify who they are. They sign an affidavit saying this is who I am. It doesn't mean that's who they are. they're the ones that are going to be, the bad actors that lied about either having arrest records or been in prison, whatever the case might have been. They're the ones that they know, they're tracking down, they're figuring out who they are. It's just taking time.
All right, let's move on now to Albany, the city. We have some big investments at the state level that could be coming, but I also want, before we get to that, I want to go back to August of this past year. We spoke at length about some different things going on, your future as county executive, other jobs, and at that press conference, you could say, that interview, here's something that you said that day.
Is mayor on that list?
I did make a mistake on a certain podcast, and I said I will announce the 30th of January of next year if these 4 candidates don't step up.
Well, here we are, the 30th of January. Will you be running for mayor of Albany?
I will not be. Look, I was frustrated because 5 good candidates came forward and they really had nothing to say. Now they put stuff out and they're saying stuff now because the city deserves, after Mayor Sheehan's last 12 years, decade in office, to have someone with a vision where they're going, what they're going to do. And I don't want to see what happened in that assembly race last year where you had a crowded field, no one really stood out, and no one really, the voters didn't get to know the people that were involved in that campaign. There wasn't enough time. And this race is crucial to continue the work on of City Hall, to continue operating with us and in a partnership. And I'm a city resident, and I want to see somebody there that's going to do something. I thought about it. I'm not going to say. I don't want to say this because like Steve McLaughlin, I don't want to end up all over the paper again because they love to. If you look at something, they think you don't want your job. I love.
We asked both of you very similar questions over the course of the last 6 months. I will say that.
I love my job as county executive. I love what I do. It's taken a long time to turn the county around and the extraordinary things we're doing. But, I love the city too. And I just see a need to fill a void to make sure we get what we need. I had that conversation with my wife and my family. And I let's just say that I'm not getting the support at home. So I'm staying put where I am, and I do love my job.
So you were close. I guess I got down to that level.
It did, because I really just, there's so many issues tackling us, and I think Mayor Sheehan did a great job last night at our State of the City, identifying all that and where she was at and where she's come. We need someone that's talking about the issues, talking about the uncomfortable conversations, talking about, I know you can use data analytics all you want and say the crime's safe, and I believe what the mayor said last night about, the crime's gone down since 2013, yeah. But people don't feel it. You got to be in a fabric of that community, talking to the business owners that are struggling with the homeless issues out in front of their businesses, the crime out in front of their businesses. We need to talk to them. And all these candidates, I'm like, how come you're not engaging? How come you're not going to the press? How come you're not sitting here saying, here's my vision, here's where I'm going? That's what I want to hear as a city resident, not as county executive, as a city resident.
Let's continue now with the City of Albany. You have the state and Governor Hochul proposing in her budget $400 million, $200 million going to some economic development type projects. And we just we learned that that soccer stadium proposal is now going to be chosen amongst others as they ran out their clock there back in November. What do you think is the best usage for that money?
So first, I want to commend this governor for what she's doing. It's since Empire State Plaza, I haven't seen this type of development in the City of Albany, right? And for her to sit there, she had a dinner at the governor's mansion, invited everyone for economic development from anyone that's done it in the City of Albany, County of Albany. And I'm walking in and I see people from Rensselaer County, Schenectady County, and I'm like, oh, here we go. It's going to be about the capital region. It's not going to be, about just focusing on the city. And it's great, and don't get me wrong, but when you add too many people to that equation, you don't get as much money. And then in that whole dinner, and she did around Robin, she went from table to table and talked to everyone. She wanted everyone's view from outside the city as well inside the city, what we can do to fix the city, what tangible things you could do quickly to fix it, and how they would do it. Yeah. And I sat there and I'm like, wow, this is great. This is really great. And then, all right, and then I'm not going to sit here and tell you I knew it was going to be $400 million. I know they've been working on this for over a year talking about it, yeah. But I had no idea it was going to be $400, $200 million. I was hoping for like $50 million, $100 million. When she announced $400 million, I was like, this is phenomenal. This is awesome. And I know like 150 is going to the museum, which, yep, needs to be redone. But the $200 million, and and I believe in the RFP that's coming out, it says it has to be in a mile of the Capitol, and they wanted to push that way. I think this is going to be a game changer for downtown Albany if done right. And I know the mayor's pushing for a soccer stadium. People think a soccer stadium, there's housing. There has to be something. And I can tell you, having an arena, it's hard. We had a hard time keeping hockey in downtown Albany. We couldn't do it. This is a game changer to accommodate the housing that's already downtown Albany. But I would love to see a grocery store. That's why I said we need like a Price Shop or something like that, Market 32 in downtown Albany, so people have an option for fresh vegetables, a place to shop where they're not taking 2 buses. To see these seniors that live in 99 101 South Pearl Street or 200 230 Green Street, get on a bus with a little cart and go halfway around town, or have to go up to the Price Shop on Delaware Avenue and bring their groceries back. It breaks your heart. And as you have these apartments, people want convenience. So I think part of this, we need a supermarket in downtown Albany to accommodate the housing they want to put in.
So Empire State Plaza, some weren't a fan of that. They say it actually hurt the city. Do you think they got it right that time? And if not, how did they get it right this time? How do you all get it right this time?
So, it's like that $1 million question, right? And I like the fact they're putting committees together and they're going to look at it. And I know there's the naysayers saying, hey, the state's going to mess it up. You have a governor that no other governor's done this, right? Governor Pataki was the last one who put in the controller's office, I forget the other 2 state buildings that are downtown right now. I'm drawing a blank. That are downtown, the Parks and Rec for the state, and then the Dormitory Authority, right? Mm-hmm. Great buildings. That was, so now you have another governor who's sitting there saying, I'm going to try to make this work. And I'm going to listen to people. I'm going to listen to outside developers. I like to say, I'm not going to listen to the politicians. I'm going to listen to the people and see what they need, and talk to us too. So don't get me wrong, we're part of the equation, but we're not going to be staring the money away one or another. And I think that's great because, again, this is something that needs to be done. And Empire State Plaza was a great accomplishment, but it displaced a lot of people. That forced a lot of people out of the city of Albany. That's helped the suburbs. It helped the town of Bethlehem and Colony. And it really hurt, and then not having taxes all them years. And I think it was Governor Pataki that put that money together. Started under Mayor Whalen, and the next mayor fulfilled that and got it done. But it was Whalen's thing to have this tax. But that's not the answer either, taxing everyone. So, yeah, I think the project's great. I think the state just needs to come up with what we need to win, and that's safer neighborhoods. That's a vibrant downtown that looks fresh and exciting. It could be artwork. It could be little things like that. Just changing a one-way street, or changing the way a street corner looks, or how a building is painted, or the facade of a downtown area, which is now all different and redone, where you don't have one or 3 buildings that look nice and then you're next to abandoned buildings, where everything looks uniformed, different patterns, but fresh and appealing.
I think 787 is probably a part of that too. I know a lot of people bemoan Empire State Plaza, but I think 787 probably plays a similar part, and money is going to that as they continue to study, see what's next there. As we're talking about this, St. Rose, as you know, I think maybe, I guess I look at it holistically, and what is the quickest turn? Because we talk about some of these projects, 787 is going to take decades, right? I mean, and whatever project might take a little bit less than that, of course, but the time the money's out there.
Probably less with Pat Fahey. She has a way about getting something done sometimes. So I give her credit to get it as far as it is
Yeah,
today.
for sure. It has made. I come from Syracuse, New York, where they worked on I-81 and the viaduct for a very long time. So I do look at it like that. But then you look at St. Rose, potentially maybe a bit of a quicker turnaround there, if done right. What's being done now, and how do you want it to look moving forward?
So, this is one of the biggest projects I've taken on as county executive, besides the finances. Because, when I took over, we were borrowing $15 million a year to make payroll. We had $20 million in reserves, and we amortized $40 million to the state controller. Things weren't good. So to get us to the point that we are today, and then sit there and take a challenge like this, but it had to be done. Because, again, it's not just about the City of Albany. He said the City of Albany is like the heart of the body for the rest of the county. And if things continue to fail, or potentially look like they're failing in the city, it's going to affect the suburbs of the county, right? So, hey, let's fix it. Let's make it right and stabilize it, so we stabilize the whole county, right? Yeah. It was tough. I was hoping somebody else was going to step up. I'm not going to lie. Was it a county thing to do? Probably not. But someone had to. And I give my credits to President Marcia White, for really trying everything to get this done. She's been a great partner in all this. I feel bad. You don't want to be the president that closes a college. She tried everything. She was reaching out, a year ago, trying to figure out how we can save it.
She was brought in, I guess, in some aspects to help save it, right?
Correct.
That was part of what her role was.
Correct. Yeah. And I just think they got too ambitious and enrollment went down, and it's hard, right? But you got 46 acres, 96 buildings in the heart of Pine Hills that, affects rentals in the area, restaurants in the area, and now it's gone. And what happens, I use Dome Stewart. You look at that property not getting redeveloped quick enough. It was a beautiful building, and now look at it. It's burnt to the ground, and that's been like 5 years now, right?
2 years.
It has been 2 years. Yeah. It feels like
coming
5.
up on 2, I believe.
All right,
it's 2023.
you probably could be right. It does feel like 5 years. But you sit there and you look at all this, and you're going, okay, look what happened there. I couldn't see that happen in the city of Albany because people will soon be stealing the copper, going in, stealing stuff out of buildings, squatting, potential fires. Drug houses, there could have been a variety of things there. So I have to say, we made the decision. We tried to help them initially to stay as a college. Yeah. Then, we had that other college that was interested in buying the St. Rose, but it was enough time to close and do it. And then I came up with the idea of creating an authority that could help us do this. And I have to thank, now Senator Fahey, but Assemblywoman Fahey and, and Senator Breslin and Assemblymember John McDonald, but Pat carried this water for us, got it passed, and I'm like, oh man, I never thought it'd get passed that quick. Yeah. I didn't think the governor would sign it that quick, and we had conversations with the governor's office, and and we started this authority. Now then we had to buy the property, as you know. JLL was saying it was worth $80 million. We had a bond authority up to $80 million, but I have an obligation to the taxpayers of this county. So there was no way I could pay $80 million for this property, and I'm not saying it wasn't worth it, and turn it around and have tangible results, and then sit there and go, well, where's all the money coming from, right? Without raising taxes. So I came up with a valuation in my head. I know the board did a good job, and I commend them. And Kevin and his team and all the board we appointed from the legislature and from the county. And I had my budget director. We got an outside consultant. We looked at it, and I said $30 million. And I need it for 35 tops, but $30 million because the maintenance to keep it going, the turnaround, and to take a university. You got to remember everything's utilized or one. So the HVCC, electrical, internet, it's all connected to every building. So you can't just turn around and flip a building and say, yeah, that building on paper might be worth $5 million. But in reality, it's only worth about $800,000 because it's going to cost me $5 million to flip to redo it and make it into housing or whatever it is. So we know we have to have some tangible results. The governor's having a big announcement next week at the College of St. Rose, I hope. We got a couple things going that we've been working on that we're going to move quick. I know people, the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association. I'm listening to them. We want to make sure they're happy as they can be, but I have an obligation to the county. This isn't a city project, and this is what I have to remind that Pine Hills Neighborhood Association. This is a county project. If you wanted a city project that focused just on the Pine Hills needs, then the city should have done this. This is a county project, so I have to have a project that's a mixed use, but attracts everyone from the county to come here, and that's what I want. I want people from the suburbs to come in here, whether we have restaurants in there, brew pubs. I had someone reach out to put a brew pub. I had 3 people reach out for restaurants. We're getting different inquiries like, yeah, but what's the best use? And, obviously we strategize with the governor's team and other people about housing, quick housing. We're looking at a senior community, 55 and older. There's things like that. So there's other people that I don't want to announce that we hopefully will once we close March 1st. I think somewhere in March we're going to close on this. And then we're going to move quick. And I'm moving a ton of county agencies there. So you're going to see the county have a footprint there. And I'm going to be selling off some of our buildings in downtown. And people are like, well, you can't leave downtown. That will go on the tax roll. So that's a win for the city, even though St. Rose won't go on the tax roll, and it hasn't been in 100 years. If I sell off my county buildings and move to St. Rose, College St. Rose, the city, it's a win-win situation for the city because now these buildings are going to go on the tax rolls, and the school, it's going to be a win for the school districts and everyone else. So the way we're looking at it, we're trying to think about that aspect too, what helps the city going forward to get more taxable property in downtown.
You mentioned the governor a couple of times while we have time here. You bring up, over the course of our conversations and even at times during your addresses to individuals, the unfunded mandates and the toll that takes on your budget. And as we speak about, the federal government and their funding, and there's a lot of different aspects going on here. An unfunded mandate, I guess, can you name a couple? I just want to get into it because I would like to say how that impacts you and maybe what are the reasons that you think what should be done differently here.
So there's a ton I can get into.
Yeah.
And I don't consider retirement unfunded mandate. That's an obligation I have to the workers. I know some people say it's an unfunded mandate, but you're not going to give them retirement. So I'm okay with that. And Tom happily does an awesome job. Don't tell him that. I don't want his head to get big. But does an awesome
Everyone seems to love him. So.
I know. He does an awesome job. Even when he beats you up in the audit. You can't be mad at Tom. People are like, you got a good friendship. You go to dinner with him. I go, oh, it's not going to stop Tom from auditing you and giving you a bad letter.
He gets applause on both sides in the state of the state. So.
No, he does. He goes, even the people that are mad at him, they're like, I'm mad at him. But, it's so... the state lawmakers, right, and the Senate, I have a good relationship with them all. But what they do is they do this unfunded mandates. They tell me I have to live in a 2% cap, right? So every county, the 57 counties of upstate New York, minus New York City, because every law they pass is minus New York, over 1 million people. So Suffolk, Long Island, Nassau, and New York City are always exempt. So it's really, I guess we don't know how to govern upstate New York. So they always say, oh, you got to live in a 2% world. Then they get like DSS. The federal government covers X, and they want us to pay Z, right? And I'm like, well, where's that money coming from? And it's federally regulated in state. I have no say over DSS. Yeah. And actually, we're one of the only states in this nation that the county runs DSS. It's a state function. I'm like, take it. I used to say to Governor Cuomo, take it back, take all the workers, because I have no say. You tell me how to run it, who I can give benefits to, and so they just had 2 programs where the last 2 years the state lawmakers added 10% almost to each of these programs going forward. It was a tune of 20% increase. That was $170 million to me in the last 2 years, right? And I have no say, and raise the age. If you don't remember, when everyone's saying, we got to raise the age, we got to do this, we got to put more on. The year before raise the age, they took $400,000 away from that, and I either had to keep funding it or cancel the program. So I found $400,000 because it was a good program and shipped it over. Then the following year, they come back and they add more mandates on raise the age. And then I'm like, okay, well, where am I getting the money from? And then it's like inside baseball. They come out and say, oh, we gave the county $1 million over here, but they didn't say they raised this $2 million over here. So that $1 million goes over here, and then I got to find another $1 million. Incompetence, whether or not you can stand trial. If you're mentally fit to stand trial, you can only imagine after COVID what's going on in this world, and someone who gets arrested and says I'm not mentally competent, and their attorney says that, they have to go to doctors, they have to see psychiatrists, they got to do all these tests. The state, since the beginning of time, paid for that. 2 years ago, they go, we're not paying for that. That's going to cost me over $3 million this year. Out of nowhere, here's $3 million. I got to start paying because the state decided not to. If you look at community college, they're supposed to pay you they passed a law, I think it was like 1972. I'm going off of memory on this, so if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I was down this road before. The state of New York is supposed to pay 1/3, we're supposed to pay 1/3, the student's supposed to pay 1/3. Guess since that law, who hasn't paid? The state of New York. So, we're paying, I'm paying Hudson Valley $13 million a year for students to go there. That I have no control because someone passed a law, and I jokingly once said, on a radio show, and I guess kind of what I did to you, someone said, what's next? I go, I'm going to run for state senate. And I go, this is a while ago, and this is when Senator Breslin was there, and he got a little mad at me, and he knew I was joking, but I go, I'm going to pass one law. I'm going to say every kid that turns 16 years old, that municipality has to buy him a brand new car. And once that passed, I will be reelected. No one will care if I go to do the job. Every 16-year-old kid's going to love me, right? Yeah. That's what they do to us. So actually, NYSAC was former president. I tried to get it done last year. Yeah. We're doing a letter, bipartisan letter from our organization. The county executive side signed off on it. We're going to bring it to a vote next month at the end of this February when we do our New York State Association meeting to the whole body, all 62 counties. Send it to every senator and assembly member and to the governor. Hey, look, live within the 2% cap. If you're telling me I have to, then if you're going to raise any programs and give me unfunded mandates, make sure it stays within the 2% cap, which I can assure you on this show, it's not going to happen. But it's going to make me feel good to send a letter and say, hey, when that senator stands up and says X, Y, Z, well, wait. You just raised these programs, which now I got to figure out how I'm going to pay for it. It's the most frustrating thing, like when the budget comes out and after it's changed, it's like you'll come to me and say, what do you think? It sounds good. It's the fine print I have to read at the end of the day, especially when the Senate and Assembly are done. And listen, the leadership in the Senate and Assembly have been good to us over the last couple of years. They really work with counties, but we really need them to cap all the unfunded mandates. And if you're going to pass a law, there's a lot of things I want to do, right? You know what the hardest thing is, Tom? When people in my office come up with a great idea, how are you going to fund it? I go, okay, where's the money coming from? Well, no, without stealing money from another program, without raising taxes or cutting services, how are we going to pay for it? And that's what the state does. They come up with these great ideas. Well, we're just going to add more. And when people are talking about, not to jump around, about the federal government shutting down money, I go, no, what scares me with the Medicaid, with Trump, with New York State, is that if they want to hold it at that level, they're going to expect us to pay because they think the counties are fat with all this money. We worked hard. Listen, again, I told you in the beginning of the segment of where I was at when I took over in 2012. As of today, I have $90 million in my reserves. I paid off the $40 million I owed the state controller. We're fiscally sound, but I made hard decisions. I fought with unions and I lost friendships over it, but I had to do what was right for the taxpayers of this county. So, at the end of the day, when I go to bed, I want to make sure I'm doing everything fiscally prudent for the taxpayers, right? And it's hard.
And I guess if you say poof, I mean, some of those mandates, obviously their intentions are there, for whatever the initiative might be. Say poof, they're gone. Mm-hmm. Does that make things more affordable? Does that allow you to lower taxes? I guess what's that dream scenario, if you will?
So we're like the 7th lowest tax in the state of New York for being $320,000. Which I have knocked it down, and we have knocked our tax base down by 40%, and I take pride in it, and I know Steve McLaughlin's doing the same thing in Rensselaer County. It's not easy with the unfunded mandates. Boy, what I could tell you is I could give you even better deals and say, we could really cut your taxes in half, which gives more spending power to people's pockets, or offset school districts, because it's really, if you look at the city budgets, town budgets, county budgets, nothing, right? If you look at your county tax, it's the school tax tax bill that is really killing everyone. So maybe do a thing to offset that, to lower that, so people get more money in their pockets and can spend more money out on the market.
Yeah, because I think obviously affordability is so important for people, and people are looking for ways to solve that.
Correct.
Right.
And if they have more money in their pocket, they're going to spend. And but it's working collectively. Like, I have a meeting coming up with the superintendents of schools, and we talk about different ideas and different things. It's same thing with our bus patrol, the cameras on there. And trust me, I've had old principals call me who helped me out when I was in trouble in school, that were good. And I'm like, I can't do nothing. But that money doesn't go to our general fund. That money doesn't go into special projects I want or the legislature wants. That money goes back to education. You see the advertising that we do, and Mary Rozak and her team does an awesome job. That went back to help out with different things in the school districts to make it safer. And if I say this, is that one of the reasons I said, no, I'm not looking to make a profit off of somebody not paying attention. I want to make no money, because I don't want people to pass the school bus. And if you see the videos, it's alarming, it's scary as hell. And I am so glad it hasn't happened, but I'm surprised it hasn't happened, that a kid has not been hit by a car or by a school bus.
You mentioned the federal government. Before we go, I just want to get your thoughts on what's going on at the federal level. I mean, we talked about a lot of money stuff, and I don't know if that's the lane, but policy-wise, how is the county prepared to counteract? We talk about this with state lawmakers all the time. And you see county like executives making their own. You go down to Nassau County every other day. Bruce Blakeman is doing something that is challenged in court or is controversial. I guess how here in Albany County do you look at what the federal government's doing? Like what does that scope look like?
It's scary at times, right? I know Bruce Blakeman, I've talked to him a handful of times, another one that's passionate about his job. We all have different styles, and that's what I said, and people like that, and I run my county the way I feel that's a better way of running it. It's scary. Look, I barely sleep. I sleep like 4 hours a night, right? And I'm like, what's he doing now? What's he doing now? We know what we were getting. We went through Trump before, and I said to your viewers, take a deep breath. Everyone's like freaking out. Now, it got a little scary, but I'm like, look, when he talked about cutting all the federal dollars back, there's mechanisms. People are like, what do you think? I go, I'm not, because it's going to be held up in court. It's going to be fought in court. He's not going to be able to do. I don't know why he did what he did, but he did it. Maybe to prove a point. So, but we looked at it. What's the impact it's going to have? And it was over $100 million. I got to figure out.
I think I counted 111 million in the last budget.
It's
11% of your revenue. Yeah.
So that was scary. And we're like, can we get through a year? We could possibly get through, and then I'm going to have to raise taxes to figure it out after that. So after 11 years of not raising taxes, we'd have to, like, what do we do to make that up? So again, that's why you have a rainy day fund. And I'm not encouraging the president to do that, and luckily we had the brighter people prevailed and said, hey, no, let's not do this. He keeps changing everything. Some of the things I was just out at an event, and people would go, well, I heard the new Office of Government Efficiency said they stopped. There was a government office that spent $2 million a year on referees that made bad decisions, went to Hawaii and got mental health. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. And then one for dart throwing, one for counting squirrels. I'm like, no, there's not. Well, I looked, there was, and I'm like, wow, that's that's kind of like interesting that you have all these, and you see some of that, and you're like, that's going to resonate to a lot of people because they're like, wait, that's a lot of wasted money. It adds up. I think they're up to like $50 or $100 million in savings right now, which is a drop in a hat of a $1 trillion budget for the federal government. But you see things like that, and people are like, he's doing so much. People are talking about him because they're afraid. And that's what I say to anyone listening to this. Take a deep breath. We're going to get through this. We got through it before. When things happen, look, we have to react, wait, cooler heads prevail, and make a path to get through this. And that's what we're going to do. That's what we do in government, and we're going to continue to do.
Real quick on the DEI aspect of this,
yep.
and the non-discriminatory workplace, and obviously these are federal workers, federal agencies, but obviously that can have a ripple effect to the private sector too. Counties can take that on, states. What do you think about those initiatives going forward?
We're not going to change it. Some of the stuff needed to be critiqued, right? Some of it was, too much red tape, and we love to do that in government. So some of the points he makes, I'm not talking to the bigger picture of it because I do like the DEI, but some of it's like, all right, this makes no sense. We can rate size it for us now. We can cut out that red tape. We can make it more efficient. I don't have, just because he cut it in the federal government, it doesn't mean I have to, and I won't. It's just like, remember when we were talking about the unions here in New York State about the Janus decision, and then the Taylor law, and I go, I'm going to honor the Taylor law, whether it gets thrown out and we don't have to. I told the unions that represent in Albany County, I said, we're going to honor that regardless of what happens in court. Don't worry about it. There's other things in life to worry about. The DEI will stand within our county, and again, I don't need to make a protest. I don't need to stand on or in front of cameras or sit here on the show and say, no, I can't affect federal government. Nothing I say or do, it's a waste of my energy and time to sit there and try to say, oh, he needs to do this and he has to put this back. Let's just fix it locally because that's what we do best, right? We lead by example, and we'll fix it here in Albany County. Our workers, I can't speak for the private sector. You are correct. Now they're not going to have to, but I have a feeling you're not going to see a lot of big changes with it. I really don't.
Finally, the future of the county and the area. I guess you look at some of the changes, other than you.
Yeah.
you got a new district attorney in here. There's going to be a new mayor, police chief at the city level. How do you view things, over the course of things are going to be changed in the next couple of years? How does it look?
It looks good. Here's the thing. Again, I applaud Mayor Sheen. You get to the point where you say, hey, it's time just to go off and pass the torch, right? You either want to do this job, because it is 7 days a week, 24 hours. People don't realize it. And I know I get criticized from certain people, and I go, yeah, I've looked at it. People come to me for jobs all the time, and you look at it and you talk about it, but I love what I do. But you always look. That's like I said, when you're a firefighter, you look to be a lieutenant. When you're a lieutenant, you look to be a captain, right? And then you look to be a battalion chief. Or where you're at, you might want to say, hey, someday I want to be here, do that. Doesn't mean you don't love the job that's in front of you. It takes a task. You're getting beat up every day. So it's kind of neat to see a new, to have a DA in there that's going to say, the same attitude I have, even though he's a Marine. He's going to sit there and go, look, I can try to fight the law, or I can figure it out, make it work for us in Albany County, then try to change the law. And that's my attitude, because I can't waste my energy and time and money trying to change it when it's not going to change. So I compliment Lee, and I like his approach to what he's going to do to that office and professionalize. And I think you're going to see a lot of stuff that wasn't done properly under the last administration start to come out in the next couple of months, and people, I think, are going to be shocked. That's all I'm going to say. And to look at the next mayor, that's why I was concerned, because it's, again, you got to want to do that job, and people get in tune because they hear the title mayor, right? Yeah. And I get it, because when I was being county executive, I went to an event with the then Governor Cuomo, and they go, "Oh, county executive, we got a seat for you in the back of the room," and the mayor walked in I'll just say in the surrounding area, and that person represented like 800 people, and they're like, "Mayor, oh my God, we got a seat for you in the front row," and I'm like, yeah, the people understand mayor, they don't understand county executive, yeah. But again, it's not about the title, and I think some people get fixated on the title or looking at what's next, and to me, that's why I'm nervous as a resident of the city of Albany to make sure. But and the police chief, Brendan Lyons, I've known his family a long time. I'm sorry, I say I said Brendan Lyons, didn't I? Because I'm thinking of the other guy.
Yeah, it's okay.
Can't get him off my mind. But Chief Cox, I've known him a long time, yep. And he's passionate. He head up leads. I like the guy, and then we're doing something. I'm bringing at St. Rose. I took a tour yesterday with Sheriff Apple, and I asked him we're going to have security. We're going to keep St. Rose security there intact, but I also would love to have him there with a substation to help with the security and oversee and make because again, this is a big investment for us, and I have to get it right. And I know the chief would love to be involved. We took a tour with him too. I brought him on the property, walked around, and I'm not trying to include him, but I go, here's the problem, Chief. You're done in 11 months and 2 weeks. I don't know who the next mayor is going to be, or if they're going to hire someone internally, or if they're going to do a national search. So the next mayor I'm looking at, maybe next chief of police, 2026. If I'm lucky, June, July of 2026, then they got to get their feet wet. If they got to get certified, then they got to learn everything. So they're not really going to have effective outcome on the police department to 27? Yeah. Right. And I'm just throwing numbers out there, and I'm not trying to throw the listeners off, but it's alarming. I need somebody I can work with today. I know that product with Sheriff Apple. We've been together for 13 years. He's like me. He likes being ambitious. He likes doing things, and he likes helping. So again, I know that relationship, and that's what I was trying to tell Chief Cox. Look, if I knew you were going to stay on for another year, and I think I said my wife won't let me run for mayor. I said, your wife said you're done after 12 months. Yeah. She wants you back home and doesn't want to deal with this.
I think he said that to me. I'm pretty sure he was sitting in that chair and he said the same thing.
Yeah, and he said that at the when he got sworn in, right? And I'm sitting there going, oh, he's in the same boat I'm in. Yeah. But again, you need your family, you need your nucleus, and and I compliment him, and I think he is going to do a lot of changes. But the problem is when he leaves or tries to effectively change roles, it's a waiting game. If I'm somebody that doesn't want to change, I go, well, he's done in 11 months. So, well, okay, I'll outwait you, Chief. You can sit there and keep smiling, but I got 11 months and you're gone, right? And really take the last month out of it. What do you got? 10 months. It's hard, right? And I commend him for what he's doing. So yeah, I think though in a positive way, it's good for the city. It's good for the county. You're going to have different ideas and different approaches, and I'll wait and see what happens, and I'll be there to be a willing partner with them to figure out the next step.
And you'll take the articles and the news stories in stride.
No. It's tough at times, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. It's not easy when you're getting beat up every day and you're like, no, that's not the factual story. That's not what happened. And no matter what I say publicly, it's not going to matter. It's not going to help the story. It's not going to change the narrative. They got their narrative. And it's frustrating. And that's the hardest thing. Look, if I do something wrong, I'm okay. Beat the hell out of me. Lay it on me. I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. I'm not afraid to sit there and say, hey, you know what, I made a mistake. But it's tough. Sometimes it's tough. We're not objective, and that's one thing I say about President Trump that he proved winning in November. How a lot of the local papers now are just not objective anymore. They're writing their own narrative, and they're not doing the fact finding. And I think of the reporters from years ago who were tough. But fairly tough, who did their homework and made sure, everything, they crossed their T's, dot their I's to the best of their ability, because not everything's, it's hard to, putting the story together. It's not easy. And I just think we've lost that here locally, that, you just get in there. If they don't like you for whatever reason, I'm a blue collar guy, they look at it, I go, hey, look at, I went in the military, I got my associate's degree, college wasn't the right fit for me, and then I went and got my degree afterwards. I'm very close to closing out my bachelor's, but I just had life, I got married young, had kids young, I'm a grandfather now. It's a little hard to go back and say, hey, let me fit this in with my schedule as county executive and everything else I'm doing. Though I think education is very important, but not everyone's fit to go to school. Not everyone has the ability to go to school. But to sit there and say, because you have an associate's degree, I fought more, Tom, around this world to defend people's rights, from a farmer who wants to be a nuclear scientist or wants to be a politician. To sit there and say, because you don't have a degree and go to an Ivy League school, you don't qualify for something. If you look in the past, John Egan, God rest his soul, he was the CEO of the airport. He dropped that, I forget, and I don't want to and get it wrong. I think it was like 6th grade. Back then, in that time, that's when people did that, when they joined the Army during World War II, or they had to go work the farms. And you look at, we built this hell of a country, right? You look at Bill Gates, and I could just go down the list of people that dropped out of college, that it was a waste of my time, and went on and did extraordinary stuff. It didn't stop them. And I'm saying a degree is important, but that stigma that the certain people were trying to put on me, I'm like, really? I go, don't we want people to see light at the end of the tunnel and have the opportunity to better themselves, instead of saying, oh no, you can't better yourself because you didn't get an opportunity to get a degree? And if you look around the state of New York, suspending civil service, we're in trouble because not enough people have degrees. And we need to start looking at jobs differently, training people and moving them up. And then, it's like a full circle. It'll go back around again. The economy will get better, people will want to work, and then they'll start saying you got to have a degree, and people who got promoted who might not have a bachelor's degree or this degree or a doctorate degree now is going to lose that job or an opportunity. Some people are better managers, supervisors, or workers that get it. I don't know if you have any friends that didn't go to school and they're like, man, that's the smartest person I met. Like, they figure it out. You look at carpenters, the stuff they build in their head, and they're building shortening houses, additions. You say, well, did you go to school for that? No, they just love to build, and they can just do that math in their number or in their head, right?
Young,
right. And I just think we can't downgrade stuff. If most kids want to get a service, Hudson Valley, like I said this, Steve McLaughlin would be an awesome president at Hudson Valley. I don't want to lose him, because then the paper would beat me up because they wouldn't have Steve either to go back and forth, right? Look, he doesn't have his doctorate degree, but it's about managing colleges. And as I look at colleges around the state of New York and around this country that are folding now, or because they've been mismanaged. Just because you got a doctorate degree doesn't mean you know how to operate. Like, one of the things I did to right the ship in the county, I put budget people in every department, because I realized that commissioner knows how to do great programs. They know how to get the services, to fix the services, but they don't understand numbers. Like, even being a fireman, like I became a captain, you're budgeting. Like, well, all the firemen would be mad at me now. Most of them don't budget their own books at home.
Well, yeah, I mean, even us, like, I don't budget things every day. I got to go and figure out yours at
the
end of the day, and try to learn it as fast as I can.
Right, and then
we have people that do that.
Exactly, and now you're chief of the fire department, I'll let Joe Gregory, and now he has to figure out a budget of $30 million. Going, oh well, the mayor goes, save money, Joe, get the job done, chief. And then you're like, well, what do I got to do? I mean, you figure it out, but are you figuring it out properly? So I brought budget people in. And to help them, you do your job, we'll control the budget, and we'll move forward. It's really thinking outside the box of how you can do things, but you got to weigh one with the other. And Steve, like that's what he said, watching what has happened to colleges across it, they either overbuilt, enrollment went down, they didn't change with the times, they didn't see it coming. This is, St. Rose and Cannon, there's other colleges that you're going to see more of this, unfortunately, and as our population shrinks, right? They got to figure these colleges out. But Steve, to me, it's like, people go to Hudson Valley to get a certification, or like HVCC or something, or nursing. They got some different programs, but the bulk of the kids go there for that reason.
And enter into the workforce.
Correct. Yeah. And who better? And I'm not saying because, and I'm not taking away from some of the extraordinary presidents that were there, and And please, I know I don't need, the presidents of major universities who I love dearly that do a good job, that have doctorates, degrees, and all that. But sometimes you get too much education. You're really a manager. You're not real. There should be somebody functioning to do that. And I said, I laughed when Steve and I talked about it. I go, it'd be fun to watch you. I said, because then you'd off be Twitter and I wouldn't have to deal with you on X or any other platform. I said, it'll be boring for a lot of people, but I said, I'll lose my comic relief when I'm feeling bad and I read what you write. But he would do an extraordinary job, but again, he probably will never get that opportunity because he doesn't have his doctorate degree. And that's what I'm saying. You have to weigh real live experience, sometimes with education as the both, to make it work. And I think we lose that. We lose that in translation because you get so fixated. And again, I'm a huge component. I want my kids to finish school. I want them to get their college. I'm a huge component of these university presidents because I've met, Javidon at Albany, extraordinary. Oh, yeah. The Maria College, Sage College, Siena College. Did I forget anything? Because I don't want to get in trouble by any of them, right? I think I got them all covered, right? RPI. Well, they're at the other county. I'm just worried about Albany County. I don't want them mad at me. I look at them and, even Marcia, they did extraordinary work and they got to make it work. And again, at the end of the day, I think Steve would be, hey, listen, I think he's doing a good job as county executive. We don't agree with each other's politics, so I'll make that very clear, but we found that common ground in when you had Tip O'Neill and Reagan, where you could agree to disagree, and that's what people get. We went out to dinner and people were like, how are you out to dinner with Steve? And I'm like, he's actually a pretty funny guy. Minus the politics, right? We don't
That's one thing.
We don't agree on anything when it comes to Trump or agree on any of that stuff. Yeah. But we found common ground to sit there and say, what can we work on, like the terror bags for the environment. He actually just, and I hope I don't blow him out of the water on this. He's looking at, he found a bamboo straw or something like that. He wants me to look in utensils. He's like, this would be great. And I'm like, I said, you're coming to my side. You're acting like a Democrat. He had some choice words, but again, we can find that common ground, and we need to do that in this nation again, or these next 4 years are going to be difficult for a lot of people, and that's what scares me. If we don't find that common ground of working together and saying, hey, look, you know what, let's, it's going to be a roller coaster. Let's face it, and I know it's going to be good for the news industry because you're going to sit there and go, all right, how much can we put on tonight? How long's the segment? And then to figure it out, it's going to be interesting in the fact that, how we're going to navigate the waters. But I have an obligation as county executive to calm the waters, to make sure everyone knows, hey, look, he's going to do what he's going to do. We're going to keep governing the way we're governing. Nothing's going to change in county government. Now, you're right about the private sector and other things I can't control. Yeah. But we're going to do what we do best and lead.
We'll see what happens. Thank you very much, county executive.
Thank you for having me. This is great. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks for listening. Hit the subscribe button right now so you can stay up to date on these news-making conversations about the issues impacting New Yorkers the most: power and politics.